By the time I realized my boss was offering me $10,000 a day to pretend to be his girlfriend, I had already said yes so fast, my dignity had to file a missing person report. His plan was simple, stupid, and clearly designed by a man who had never once been told no by reality. Take me home for the holidays, parade me in front of his family as the worst possible girlfriend alive, and use me as a human dumpster fire so they would finally realize how good his ex, Lily Bennett, had been. Basically, I was not being hired to impress anyone. I was being hired to make a whole rich family look at Lily and whisper, maybe we bullied away an angel. For $10,000 a day, I didn't just agree, I mentally put on a helmet. Don't ask me to be the contrast girl. Ask me to drag the whole comparison group through traffic. Ask me to be the control sample, the warning label, the OSHA violation. I was born for this invoice. On the drive to his family mansion, I was still laughing, because nothing says healthy workplace culture like your boss paying you 5 figures a day to emotionally sabotage his parents. Then my brain did what it always does when money is involved. Math. So, I said, pulling out my phone calculator. The drive is 2 hours. That's $833 already. Are you paying check, Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, cash, or are we doing daily settlement? Jason Blackwood, my boss, my temporary boyfriend, and a man I normally called Mr. Blackwood out loud, while mentally calling that dumb bastard in a tailored coat, leaned back and closed his eyes like he was trying to astral project into a better hiring decision. Stop talking. Got it, old dumb Silence. The car became a courtroom. My mouth had betrayed me, my soul left through the air vent. Jason's eyes snapped open like I had touched him with a live wire. For one horrifying second I saw the future. No $10,000 a day, no holiday performance bonus, no glorious descent into paid madness. Just unemployment, awkward HR paperwork, and me explaining to a recruiter that I was fired for calling my boss an old dumb bastard during a girlfriend simulation. I prepared to apologize. I prepared to cry. I prepared to fake choking on air. But Jason stared at me for a long moment, then slowly nodded with grim approval, like a general recognizing a useful war criminal. Good. I blinked. I'm sorry? That, he said. That's the energy. When we get there, don't hide your strength. Don't hold back. Whatever happens, I'll support you. Egal thrill ran through my body. Not romance. Absolutely not romance. This was worse. This was creative authorization. Something deep inside me, something ancient, unemployed, and deeply underappreciated, opened one eye. So you're saying I have full creative control? Jason looked out the window like a man watching his own funeral procession. Yes. Gorgeous, dangerous, billable. Jason's family house was not a house. It was capitalism with columns. 3 stories tall, high ceilings, grand foyer, a chandelier so large that if it fell, it wouldn't kill a person, it would start a foundation in their memory. The curtains were longer than my life expectancy. The spiral staircase looked like a vampire duke should be standing on it announcing property taxes. Everything smelled like old money, fresh polish, and generational emotional damage. I stood there under a chandelier the size of a weather event and thought, this man lives here and still used to pay me $5,000 a month. 5,000, in this economy, in this palace, with curtains that probably cost more than my internal organs. I clenched my teeth so hard, I almost achieved enlightenment. Evil capitalists always have great lighting. Jason must have thought I was nervous, because he patted my shoulder gently. Don't be stiff. Treat it like your own home. I looked at him. He looked at me. His eyes said, please remember this is a plan, not a felony. I smiled sweetly, nodded like a soft, harmless woman, and took off my shoes. Then, out of habit, I pulled out my insoles. Look, before anyone judges me, let me explain. Some people carry hand sanitizer, some people carry pepper spray. I have sweaty feet and a realistic approach to moisture management. Unfortunately, at that exact sacred private moment, Jason's mother and younger sister came down the stairs. His sister, Chloe Blackwood, stopped halfway down, pointed at me, and gasped like she had just discovered a possum in a bridal salon. Mom! Oh my God, look what Jason brought home. His mother, Evelyn Blackwood, looked me up and down with the cold, surgical disgust of a woman who rejects napkins for being emotionally cheap. Jason, she said, what is this? Chloe descended another step, eyes locked on my hand. Is she holding an insole? I lifted it slightly, because I believe in transparency. Yes. Chloe slapped a hand over her mouth. In the foyer? Would the kitchen be better? She ignored me, and began circling like a rich little vulture. Who even dresses like this anymore? And her socks. Mom, her socks have holes. Oh my God, Jason, did you find her behind a gas station? Evelyn sighed like my existence had damaged the air quality. No one in this family has ever been this careless about appearances. I lowered my head. My shoulders trembled. When I raised my face again, 2 large tears were already hanging there. Not 1, 2. Symmetry matters in emotional warfare. I looked at Jason with injured softness. Jason, are they telling the truth? Jason's face tightened. Before he could answer, Chloe rushed in, delighted. Of course it's true. You're literally a hillbilly. She raised one manicured hand, the nails long, glossy, and sharp enough to open Amazon packages and emotional wounds. Look at you. You're not even embarrassed. Jason quietly took 1 step backward. Not from Chloe, from me. That man knew where the weather was coming from. He stared at his sister and warned her slowly, I suggest you stop. Chloe sneered. What, you're protecting her now? Lily came here so many times, and I never saw you defend her this openly. There it was. Lily, the actual client in spirit. Jason was just the funding department. I sniffed. I'm sorry. Chloe lifted her chin. Good. If you know you should apologize, then hurry up and get out of this. Her mouth opened. My hand moved. Fast, clean, divine. 1 second Chloe was speaking. The next my insole was in her mouth. Perfect fit. I mean perfect. Like it had been custom molded by destiny. Chloe's eyes bulged. Oomph. I stared at her, impressed despite myself. Honestly, that sits pretty well. Everyone knows that when the human mouth is suddenly filled, the tongue pulls back and speech becomes difficult. This is not violence. This is biology. Evelyn screamed and reached for me. What are you doing? Now here is where people love to blame me, but let the record show, when someone lunges at you with their mouth open and you happen to have a second insole, that is not aggression. That is logistics. My hand shot up. Evelyn tried to dodge. Fate did not. The second insole hit its target. Oomph. Mother and daughter stood there, gagging in surround sound, both clutching at their mouths, eyes wild, luxury dignity leaking out by the second. A strange indoor wind seemed to blow through the mansion, maybe from panic, maybe from ancestral shame, maybe from the chandelier trying to leave. Chloe ripped the insole out first and screamed like she had discovered mortality. Evelyn followed, pale as expensive milk. Jason, Chloe shrieked, are you dead? Do something. Is this domestic violence? Evelyn yelled. Is this assault? I immediately stepped forward, burst into harder tears, and wailed, I'm sorry, I really am. I can't control myself when people say cruel things. Then I spat. Not delicately, not movie style, more like a llama in litigation. Chloe screamed. Evelyn screamed louder. I screamed apologetically. Hair got grabbed. Legs got kicked. Someone's bracelet flew. I was crying, trembling, attacking, apologizing, and retreating all at once, a full-body contradiction in discount socks. I'm sorry. I don't want to be like this. Why would you say that about me? I just wanted to be a gentle, ordinary girl. I grabbed Chloe's hair with one hand, shielded myself with the other, kicked toward Evelyn's shin, and yelled, sorry, 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 with each impact like a malfunctioning apology machine. It was important to maintain my core brand, cowardly and feral, weak but dangerous, a woman who flinches before biting. Jason stood nearby, eyes wide, not helping, because he had clearly realized this was the best return on investment he had ever received. Chloe and Evelyn retreated step by step, clutching each other, their faces filled with horror. Don't come near us, Chloe sobbed. Then don't provoke me, I sobbed back, holding an insole like a sacred artifact. Jason finally stepped in, very cautiously, like a zookeeper approaching a raccoon that had learned tax law. Enough, that's enough. I instantly lowered the madness by a professional 10%. He was, after all, the payer. I might be unstable, but I'm not financially illiterate. Chloe and Evelyn fled upstairs, wailing. The foyer went quiet. My breathing slowed. Then the post-madness guilt arrived. It always does. Every time I finish going feral, remorse walks in carrying a mop. That's why these things only happen 0 times or countless times. Once you take that first real step into public insanity, the road becomes strangely well paved. I started quietly cleaning the battlefield, straightening shoes, wiping the floor, smoothing the rug like I had not just turned a mansion foyer into a low-budget wrestling arena. I looked up at Jason nervously. Boss. Sorry. Jason when there are people around, boss when there aren't. I didn't overdo it, did I? Jason kept a careful distance from me and an even more careful distance from the insoles. Then he took another step back. Slowly, cautiously, he gave me a thumbs up. I almost laughed. What did he think? That I could still attack him in September with a winter insole? That day, Chloe and Evelyn reportedly used 3 tubes of toothpaste and 5 basins of mouthwash. By dinner, they reappeared in the golden dining room with hollow eyes, mint breath, and the fragile dignity of people who had stared into the abyss and tasted arch support. Dinner should have been normal. It was not. Nothing in that house had ever met normal, not even the napkins. The Blackwoods apparently had 6 chefs, but because it was the holiday season, all 6 were off. In previous years, whenever the chefs weren't around, Lily had cooked, alone, every year. Jason had told me this with heartbreak in his voice, as if he had only recently discovered that letting your girlfriend serve your hostile family like unpaid catering was not love. Groundbreaking. Nobel Committee, call this man. Now Lily was gone and everyone looked at me. Evelyn sat at the table with a soft smile, the kind rich women use before asking you to bleed politely. Earlier was just a misunderstanding, she said. Actually, after thinking about it, I quite like you. You're lively. Chloe's smile twitched. Very lively. Evelyn continued. But if you want to become part of the Blackwood family, you should show sincerity. Cooking 1 meal isn't too much to ask. I blinked slowly. 1 meal? Nothing complicated, Evelyn said. 4 cold dishes, 6 hot dishes, 10 total. We just want to taste your cooking. Jason's eyes started firing distress signals from across the room. Blink once for don't do it. Twice for please don't poison anyone. 3 times for I deserve this. I sat there thinking, how did Lily handle this? She probably smiled, swallowed the insult, cooked beautifully, then got criticized anyway. That was Lily's tragedy. I was not Lily. I stood silently and walked into the kitchen. Behind me I heard Chloe whisper, "See, people like her are easy. She responds to pressure better than kindness." Oh baby, pressure doesn't tame me. Pressure loads the cannon. In the kitchen I began working, loudly. I chopped vegetables like they owed me back pay. I slammed cabinet doors. Pots clanged. Bowls crashed. Pans rang out like the percussion section of a revolution. I let every sound announce my resentment. But here was the inconvenient truth. I could cook. Well, being crazy does not mean being useless. As a harmful stereotype. Soon, the table was full. Cold appetizers, hot dishes, rich sauces, tender meat, glossy vegetables, curry beef, saucy eggplant, mashed pumpkin, everything fragrant and beautiful. A culinary crime scene, but gorgeous. Jason called, "Aren't you eating?" I shook my head. No appetite. This was partly performance, partly instinct. Never eat in a room where rich people are smiling too much. Evelyn tasted 1 dish, then another. Her expression changed from suspicion to surprise to reluctant satisfaction. Not bad. Chloe tried the food, then frowned like my competence had personally insulted her. Jason reached for his bowl. I turned on him instantly. "Touch that rice and I'll shove it in your mouth." He froze. I smiled. Blocking mouths is my specialty. Evelyn slammed her fork down. "How can you speak to your own man like that?" Jason put his chopsticks down, stood up and left the table silently. His expression had changed. He understood, or at least he understood enough to fear the next 5 minutes. As he passed me, I mouthed for Lily, "Hold it in." He closed his eyes like a man swallowing glass. Everyone continued eating. I got bored. So I pulled out my phone and deliberately searched out loud. What should I do if my boyfriend's family makes me cook on my first visit? Chloe's sharp voice cut across the room. "Why don't you read the answer?" I looked up. "Are you sure you want to discuss such a disgusting topic while eating?" She smiled. "Say it." I smiled back. "You said it, don't regret it." I took a deep breath and read. "The internet says, say nothing. Obediently cook. After cooking, stir very thoroughly. Watch them finish eating. Then politely ask." I leaned forward, voice soft as silk. "Did my poop taste good?" The room froze. Forks stopped midair. Souls tried to exit through the chandelier. Chloe stared at the curry beef. Evelyn stared at the eggplant. Someone's eyes landed on the pumpkin mash and immediately looked away. Their chests began rising in unnatural rhythms. Their mouths opened but no words came out. I felt a little bad. Not enough to stop, just enough to add customer service. "Don't worry," I said warmly. "I don't like stirring poop into food. That's too disgusting." Their faces relaxed by half an inch. Hope, stupid little hope, returned. I continued. "I prefer pee." The hope died instantly. Jason made a sound from the hallway. Maybe a cough, maybe a prayer. I rose from my chair, suddenly alive, and began pacing, with growing excitement. "I'm sorry. I know this is wrong. I really can't control it. Why do people keep pushing me? I didn't want this. I circled the table faster and faster, crying, flinging my arms, turning dinner into a hostage situation with side dishes. This isn't cooking, I announced. This is sin with garnish. Chloe screamed. Evelyn screamed. Robert wasn't home yet, but I'm sure his blood pressure felt a disturbance in the force. Eventually, Jason and I were kicked out. To clarify, I did not actually pee in the food, but I firmly believed that family would never ask me to cook again, and honestly, prevention is better than cure. The front door slammed behind us. We stood outside in the cold air, Jason stiff as a man who had seen the future and found me in it. After 5 seconds he gave a polite, strained laugh. Thank you. I looked at him. For what? You really held back at work. I frowned. What did I ever do to you at work? He looked at me. I looked at him. We both wisely chose silence. Fine. Maybe I had occasionally emotionally vandalized meetings. Maybe I had once muttered corporate hospice during a roadmap review. Maybe I had a reputation. But compared to tonight, that was professional courtesy. Jason rubbed his temples. Don't relax, my dad comes back in 2 days. When he returns, my uncles and older relatives will gather for the holiday dinner. That scene, he paused, will be much worse. I suddenly understood. So the problem is hereditary. Jason looked into the night. Yes. 2 days later, Robert Blackwood returned, and the first thing he did was order Jason to attend dinner alone. Which, in rich family language means, come without witnesses, allies, or that insult demon. Jason insisted on bringing me. I admired his commitment. I questioned his survival instinct. There'll be plenty of room for you to perform, he said. That's a terrible sentence, I said. And yet, I'm inspired. We entered a private dining room where 20 relatives sat around a giant round table like a board meeting for emotional repression. At the head sat Robert Blackwood, Jason's father, stern, powerful, unsmiling, the kind of man who looked like he had never once lost an argument because everyone around him preferred oxygen. He looked at Jason, then at me. His expression turned glacial. This is a family dinner. I told you to come alone. Why did you bring an outsider? I looked behind me. Where? Nobody laughed. Robert narrowed his eyes. I mean you. Ooh, something that can't even appear properly in public. Something, not someone, something. I was almost touched by the efficiency. I turned to leave, not because I was scared, but because dramatic exits are a legitimate tool. Jason grabbed my wrist. I pulled away. He held on. We started tugging at each other in front of 20 silent rich people, like 2 children fighting over a cursed balloon. Jason tightened his grip and said loudly, "What are you afraid of?" Then he leaned in and whispered, so only I could hear. "See the woman on the left? That's the match they arranged for me. Help me deal with her." Ah, there it was. New target acquired. I lowered my head. My voice became tiny, trembling, barely audible. "I have megalophobia. I'm scared." Robert laughed coldly. "Weren't you very impressive before? Now you can't even speak?" That made me angry. Not because he insulted me, because he ruined my pacing. I reached into my bag, pulled out a mini speaker I had bought from a grocery store auntie outside, turned it to maximum volume and pressed play. My own recorded voice exploded through the room. "I have megalophobia. I'm scared of big idiots." Silence detonated. Then the recording looped. "Big idiots, big idiots, big idiots." Jason inhaled sharply. Robert froze. Honestly, the recording was accurate. If Jason was the dumb bastard, Robert was clearly the original patent holder. The relatives' faces turned spectacularly ugly. Robert's lips trembled. His face went purple. Several times he tried to speak, but rage had clogged the exit. I stepped forward, under 20 horrified gazes, and said kindly, "I know you're angry, but don't be angry yet. You can't spend all your anger now. There's more later." Then I pressed loop again. "I have megalophobia. I'm scared of big idiots." 20 rich people sat frozen, like their software had crashed. At that exact moment, a server knocked politely and entered. "Excuse me," he said with the careful smile of a man not paid enough for this. "Do you have a phone or speaker playing something? Other guests have complained that the holiday greeting is disturbing." What a vibe killer. I sighed, turned off the big idiot chant and switched tracks. This time, a cheerful motivational recording filled the room. "Life is like a play. Fate brings us together. Growing old is not easy. Shouldn't we cherish it more?" Why get angry over little things? If others get angry, I won't. If anger makes me sick, no one can suffer for me. Speaker and began rotating around the room like a deranged wellness coach. I placed the speaker near each uncle and aunt, smiling warmly. It's the holidays, don't get angry. Jason likes me. If you all die mad, the property is mine. I pointed at one man. See him? Your younger brother. Another. And him? Also your younger brother. Another. And eventually, all of you are my younger brothers. Jason's uncles went pale. A few rolled their eyes so hard they nearly saw their childhoods. But they survived. Good. They had grown. Somehow I was allowed to sit at the table. The dishes arrived like a parade of wealth. Seafood towers, carved meats, glossy sauces, tiny vegetables arranged like they had trust funds. I had never seen half of it before, but unfamiliar food does not intimidate me when it is free. While everyone else sat in spiritual paralysis, I ate with respect. Across from me sat the arranged girl Jason had pointed out, Grace Whitman, pretty, polished, shiny-eyed, and hostile in that wealthy private school way where people insult you through posture. She stared at me openly, her big glittering eyes filled with undisguised enemy fire. I lifted my chin. What are you looking at? Grace froze. Before she could answer, a middle-aged woman beside her snapped, Looking at you. So what? I glanced between them. Is this how rich families introduce relatives? Like medieval factions? Again, no laughter. The tragedy of the upper class is poor timing. Grace ignored me and stood gracefully, eyes wet, expression fragile. She walked toward Jason like a sad ballerina in a perfume ad. Jason, she said softly. I immediately followed with a cheerful, heh. Everyone looked at me. I reached into my bag and pulled out a medical report. Crisp, folded, prepared. Before we continue, I said, I think the family should understand Jason's condition. Jason's face lost all color. Beautiful. I handed the report to the nearest relative and let it travel around the table. One by one, they read it. One by one, they looked up at Jason. Horror, pity, confusion, shame, a full emotional light show. The report said Jason Blackwood, male, 32, clinical diagnosis, little brother problem. A polite localized way to say the equipment had filed for early retirement. Jason's expression was magnificent. I leaned close and whispered, sorry, ice-cold weapon, main advantage is surprise. He looked like he wanted to fire me, sue me, and thank me in the same breath. He forced a smile, took the report, and personally handed it to Grace. I watched his jaw twitch. I watched his face fight for management control. Grace read it. Her eyes widened. Her face turned white, then pink, then heroic. She slowly took Jason's hand. It's okay, she said. It's just a small illness. I'll help you treat it. I stared at her. Really? This was still in play? Where was her dignity, her pride, her rich girl reserve? Gone, burned at the altar of future inheritance. Jason closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something dead and determined in his gaze. I wish that were true, he said softly. But I'm already cured. Grace brightened. You're cured? Yes. Then why won't you try? How do you know we can't work? Jason smiled faintly. Broken, fragile, suicidal. Because I'm the bottom. The room cracked open without sound. A spoon hit a bowl. Someone choked. Robert stared like the world had betrayed him. I stared too. Excuse me? When did we unlock this storyline? Jason's aunt slammed the table. Jason, what nonsense are you saying? I looked at her with respect. Auntie, you understand more than expected. Grace clearly did not. She blinked, confused, then pulled out her phone and searched. I watched the internet educate her in real time. 2 seconds later, she flung Jason's hand away, like it was radioactive. You pervert, she screamed, stumbling back as if he had grown tentacles. Dinner died, completely. Everyone else barely ate. I, however, accepted all incoming dishes. I am not judgmental when seafood is expensive. Afterward, Jason looked hollowed out. How did I become this? He murmured. Lily doesn't want me anymore. I patted his shoulder. Don't be sad. Your family might not want you now either, but that's fine. He looked at me. That's comfort? I have a plan, I said. As long as you do what I say, I guarantee you and Lily. I didn't finish. Robert had already grabbed Jason and shoved him into one of several luxury cars, like a kidnapping sponsored by German engineering. The convoy sped off. I stood alone outside the restaurant. Fine, I said. So that's how we're doing business. Then I called a cab, and somehow arrived back at the Blackwood mansion before they did. Never underestimate a woman paid $10,000 a day with competitive rage. When Jason and Robert pulled up, I was already waiting at the intersection outside their house, beside a neighborhood dog. Both of us standing guard, like the gates of hell had hired. Part-time security. Robert pointed at me. Look at this. Even if Jason doesn't marry Grace, he can never marry this thing. One aunt nearly went numb. I stood up and corrected him. You need to understand the situation. Strip away appearances and look at the essence. Who marries whom is still undecided. Jason choked. Robert processed the sentence 3 seconds late, then exploded. What did you say? Rich people often have delayed emotional reflexes. Tragic, but manageable. Evelyn came running to open the door after hearing the commotion. I moved instantly. In one smooth motion, I twisted through the entryway, slid inside, kicked off my shoes, and pulled out my insoles. A complete combat sequence. Evelyn and Chloe saw the insoles and froze. Not metaphorically. Their souls hit the brakes. Robert clutched his chest and barked. Why are you standing there? Go in. Evelyn and Chloe shuffled inside, pressed together, stiff as hostages. Robert snapped. What are you afraid of? Can she eat you? Chloe's voice came out tiny. She can't eat me, but she can make me eat poop. The silence deserved a trophy. Jason covered his mouth. I knew he was laughing. After all, compared to everyone else, I had only threatened him with rice. He should be grateful. Robert still refused to surrender to reality. I don't believe a woman can care nothing about reputation. I nodded with great moral seriousness. I am a benevolent person. A philosopher once taught me. Reputation can be good or bad. Before, being called abnormal was bad. But if everyone is abnormal, then abnormal becomes normal. If everyone is a pervert, no one is a pervert. Therefore, the woman publicly known as a pervert is actually a professor of social evolution. I paused. That made a lot of sense, didn't it? Nobody answered. Their faces said I had trapped their brains in a revolving door. Evelyn finally whispered, Jason, if we hadn't opposed you and Lily back then, would you never have brought back this lunatic? Jason tilted his head upward at a perfect 45-degree angle, staring at the chandelier like a tragic male lead in a perfume commercial. Everything is too late now, he said deeply. My Lily can only live forever in my heart. Robert fell into thought. Evelyn and Chloe sat blankly, afraid to speak. The moment was almost beautiful. Too beautiful. So I slapped Jason across the face, hard. The sound cracked through the room. Jason's face turned red, and to my horror, not entirely from pain, as a strange flush there, like the man had discovered a confusing new emotion. I grabbed his collar. Which poisonous little memory are you thinking about? You're with me and still thinking of someone else? Are you unhappy with me? Am I not enough? Say it. Robert stomped in rage. How can you be so useless? I turned back to him with a villain smile. Useless is fine. As long as you still have breath, old man. Don't rush. You'll get your turn. Then the chase began. I attacked Jason. Jason dodged. Robert chased me. I chased Jason again. Evelyn and Chloe screamed. We formed a perfect moving triangle through the mansion. A closed-loop ecosystem of poor choices. I swung. Jason ducked. Robert lunged. I slipped away. Jason circled the sofa. I cut him off. Robert wheezed behind us like an outdated vacuum cleaner. Stop, he yelled. Absolutely not. The man did not have the cardio to enforce authority. After a while, something shifted deep inside me. Maybe adrenaline. Maybe the 10 dishes. Maybe fate. I jumped out of the combat loop and shouted, Pause. Emergency. Robert gasped. You think you can stop whenever you say stop? I clenched every muscle below the waist, toes gripping the floor, face full of solemn terror. Do you want me to poop right here? Evelyn started crying. Chloe started crying harder. She already mentioned it. Let her go. I can't take this ancestor anymore. So I was granted bathroom rights like a negotiated ceasefire. When I came out, Jason was being interrogated by the family. What exactly do you like about her? Someone demanded. Jason leaned back lazily and smiled. I like that she doesn't care whether people live or die. It makes people excited. Chloe looked like she wanted to resign from the family. Is that praise or an insult? What is the difference anymore? That night, Robert, Evelyn, and Chloe sighed and groaned the entire night, like haunted plumbing. Jason was worried. Will this really work? My reputation is gone. I rolled my eyes. Is your reputation more important, or is Lily more important? He answered immediately. Lily. Good, I said. My strategy is simple. If you're crazy enough, you can drive everyone else crazy first. A man with a love brain is the best dowry. Please remember that. The next morning Chloe was already making noise downstairs. Why don't we just accept Lily? I really can't take this anymore. Evelyn said nothing. Robert said nothing. The whole family had aged overnight by at least 7 tax brackets. Someone sighed. Maybe if we accept Lily, Jason will go back to normal. Then we'll have a daughter-in-law, someone to cook, someone to help, someone obedient again. As long as we don't go too far and throw her a little kindness, she'll serve the whole family. I stood on the stairs listening. Ah, so that was it. For years they neither fully accepted Lily nor fully rejected her. They kept her dangling, used her when useful, mocked her when comfortable. Now that they were in trouble, they wanted to drag her back as a backup appliance. Classic trash behavior. Premium package. I suddenly felt very awake. Not long after, Jason came to me holding $50,000, 5 full days of performance pay. He looked radiant, spring breeze on his face, joy in his eyes, like a golden retriever who had just been approved for a mortgage. "You can go home," he said. I sat up from the couch. "Why? You saying I'm not sweet enough?" Jason shook his head, excited enough to vibrate. "They agreed to Lily. They personally called and invited her over. Your mission is complete." I already knew. I had heard their entire little backup appliance conversation. Before I could say anything, Jason suddenly shot toward the front door like a rabbit hearing fireworks. "Lily's here. Hurry, hide. Do not let her see you." I stared at him. Wow, use the millstone, kill the donkey. Squeeze every drop of chaos out of me, then shove me into storage like seasonal decor. Not righteous, not ethical, not happening. I slipped into a bedroom and listened. The front door opened. Lily's voice was soft, obedient, and very pretty. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood. Chloe, I brought some gifts." Evelyn's voice had transformed into warm honey. "Oh, Lily, you're such a good girl." I leaned against the wall and suddenly felt exhausted. Not sleepy, soul-tired, like an 80-year-old woman carrying 60 buckets of water under the summer sun, only to watch someone else's field get watered. This gentle little bunny, this soft, polite, fragile girl, how had she survived in this wolf den for years? And now they dared invite her back, they dared smile at her, they dared act like the past was a misplaced receipt? At this point, a reasonable person would have taken the $50,000, left quietly, and called it a successful contract. Unfortunately, I was not raised by reasonable circumstances. I heard someone say, "From now on you and Jason should be together properly." That sentence kicked open the emergency exit in my soul. Out of the room, sprinted across the hall, threw myself onto Jason's waist, and began sobbing like a woman abandoned in a Victorian thunderstorm. "You heartless thing. Yesterday you said you'd stay with me forever. How can you be with someone else now? Did you forget what you promised me? You said if I married you, you'd run to me in the middle of the night for everything I hated. You forgot. You forgot everything." I covered my ears, cried, sniffled, picked my nose through tears, and flung emotional debris through the living room with the confidence of a woman who had already voided the warranty. Nobody dared approach me. Jason, trapped under my laser-guided chaos, had no power to fight back. Lily stood frozen. She stared at me, then at Jason, then back at me. Finally she asked, panicked, "Who are you?" I sniffed, lifted my chin proudly, and pointed at Jason. "I'm her husband." Dead silence. Lily turned to stone. She pointed at Jason, then at me. "You mean Jason is?" I raised one finger and shook it gently. No, not he, me. I am his husband." I nodded like this solved everything. "It's complicated. You don't have to understand. It's okay if you don't understand. Just remember it. I know you like him. Strictly speaking, what is this? He is your husband, and I am his husband. You and I are an overlapping intersection. We can coexist peacefully. The only issue is he hasn't fulfilled his promises to me yet. I'm also upset. I hate many things, honestly." Evelyn's eyes bulged like cartoon bells. She stomped her foot. "What on earth are you saying?" Lily looked around helplessly. "Can anyone tell me what's going on?" Evelyn rubbed her temples. Robert clenched his shoulders. Chloe picked at her nails. Ask one person, silence. Ask another, silence. Then Lily suddenly laughed. Not a polite laugh. Not a delicate laugh. A loud, cracked, dangerous laugh. She looked at Jason. "So this is what you are? Jason Blackwood, you're actually this perverted?" Her eyes sharpened. "You always told me to be gentle, to be virtuous, to be a good wife, a good woman, and meanwhile you were secretly being perverted behind my back? That's not fair. The room froze. I froze too. Wait, wasn't Lily supposed to be the soft little bunny? Who installed the software update? My mouth moved before my brain. Then what would make it fair? Lily looked at me, something bright and wild lit in her eyes. I'll be perverted too. Evelyn gasped. Chloe whimpered. Robert looked ready to pass a law. Lily stepped forward like a warrior picking up a spear, like a sister with a lance. Whoever I stab dies. Life and death are nothing. If you don't accept it, fight me. From now on, my mental state will be abnormal. Nobody will dare provoke me. Instead of torturing myself, I'll crash into everyone else. Family. Who understands? I almost cried. In all my years of lonely battle, I had finally met a soulmate, a fellow emotional escape artist, a woman who understood that sometimes healing is just choosing a louder weapon. We hugged, we cheered, we twisted, we screamed, we crawled. Our mental state advanced 100 years beyond the national average. We became two women spiritually crab-walking out of oppression, while a rich family watched civilization fail. Jason finally panicked. He did not dare grab me, which was wise, so he went for Lily. After receiving several hard slaps from both sides, he finally managed to hold her in his arms. Lily, it's me. It's Jason. What happened to you? Love brain, wake up. Lily slammed her forehead into his chest so hard, his eyes watered first. Jason apologized again and again. I know I was wrong. My family knows I'm serious now. I'll be with you no matter what. Lily spat directly on him. Beautiful arc. Historic moisture. Your late love is worth nothing, she said. Where were you earlier, when your mother bullied me, when your sister mocked me? Were you dead? When I was exhausted cooking and cleaning, you told me to endure. The child is already gone, and now you show up with diapers? The pig already hit the tree, and now you know to turn? Too late. Jason stood there wrecked. Lily turned toward the kitchen. Didn't they always want me to do housework and cook? Fine. I'll do it now. Then she moved through the Blackwood house with terrifying familiarity. She knew every corner, because she had served every corner. That alone made my chest hurt. She grabbed Evelyn's toothbrush and scrubbed the toilet. She grabbed the toilet brush and scrubbed a pot. She took a spatula and shoveled cat poop. Then she boiled water, made what she proudly called authentic cat poop coffee, poured it into a water gun, lifted it like a battlefield relic, and announced, "Ready, face the storm." Then she sprayed. Cat poop coffee misted through the mansion, like the judgment of God with digestive issues. Somewhere in the kitchen came Lily's strange laugh, warm and familiar and deeply wrong. My whole body itched. I wanted to join so badly, my bones braided. But I restrained myself. This was not my stage anymore. This was Lily's revenge recital. Jason, covered in cat poop coffee-colored liquid, finally collapsed. What I wanted was the old Lily, the gentle Lily, the kind, simple Lily, not this woman who crawls around and goes crazy whenever she wants. Men observe, this is what they call love. They want the version of you that swallows poison quietly and smiles afterward. Here was the funniest, saddest part. Lily had never known I existed. To win her forgiveness, Jason confessed his entire plan, every detail. Hiring me, bringing me home, using me to shock his family, hoping they would appreciate Lily. He thought she would be moved. He thought she would see his dramatic sacrifice and say, "Wow, you humiliated yourself publicly, romance is saved." Men love doing one loud, useless thing and calling it devotion. But Lily cared about something else entirely. It wasn't just his family's cruelty that killed her love. It was his silence, his coldness, his refusal to protect her when protection mattered. That was the knife. The family swung it, yes, but Jason stood there holding the door open. By dragging me in, he accidentally gave Lily something better than an apology, the door out. And Lily had bones. You could tell from the fact that she had dumped him first. She had only been wounded for a while. Once she stepped past the wound, she was decisive, ruthless, free. After the final spray of spiritual coffee, Lily walked to the door. Before leaving, she even said, "Sorry." Very polite, devastatingly polite. Jason stood there stunned and did not dare move. I ran after her. 3 minutes later, we were on the street, the world strangely quiet behind us, and I took a leisurely sip of coconut latte. "So," I asked, "how did going crazy feel? Exciting?" Lily's cheeks were flushed. Her eyes were bright. I've never vented like that before. It felt amazing. I nodded with professional pride. Do it a few more times and you'll get used to it. Proper emotional release is good for your health. We were about the same age. Somehow, in the smoking ruins of a rich family's holiday fantasy, we had found an instant friendship. Not the cute brunch kind. The kind forged in toilet brushes, fake medical reports, and mutually assured social destruction. After a while, Lily looked worried. I heard you work for Jason. Will he make things hard for you later? I waved it off. Making things hard for me is also hard work. Eddie found a new job. If he dares, I have at least 100 ways to make his head hurt. Then I reached into my hidden little bag and pulled out my notebook. My handbook. Years of practical combat experience recorded carefully. Every unfair situation, every classic battlefield, every way I had turned humiliation into performance art. I kept it because it mattered. A warm reminder from me to the world. If you try me, bring snacks and legal counsel. Lily flipped through it. At first she smiled, then slowly her expression softened. You must have suffered a lot to collect all this. I froze. People always say others only care whether you fly high, not whether you're tired. In reality, no one had ever cared whether I flew high or whether I was tired. No one cared if I was crawling. No one cared if I was carrying everything alone. Lily was the first person who looked at my madness and saw the bruises underneath. I took a deep breath, forced the emotion down, and said lightly, It's fine. It's all over. We hailed a cab and did something wildly luxurious. Checked into a 5-star hotel. Why didn't I go home? Because I didn't have one. The world was huge and none of it belonged to me. Then again, the world was huge and maybe all of it could belong to me if I stopped asking permission. Lily didn't want to go home either. Her family would only ask about marriage, poke at her breakup, gossip, sigh, and turn her pain into dinner table entertainment. She was sick of it. 2 days later, it was the holiday. We bought snacks, drinks, junk food, soda, fruit, chips, everything 2 women need to survive a festival without relatives. No in-laws, no fake smiles, no 10-dish cooking test, no one asking if we had reflected our attitude. I made a holiday door sign myself and taped it to the hotel room door with solemn ceremony. Top line, born human, still eligible to die. Bottom line, mind your business and go sleep. Center banner, try me. According to legend, for those few days, even cockroaches passing our room door took a detour. Good. That is brand recognition. Inside the room were 2 girls who had punched through emotional suffocation and understood each other's hearts. I wrote the whole story down in my handbook as Style 110. When facing injustice together, fight bravely. Everyone is alive for the first time, so why should I spoil you? That became our life rule. Please take notes. Later, Lily told me her side. After she broke up with Jason, he kept begging to wreck. On Style. Every sentence sounded like, my family was wrong. Please give our relationship another chance. The more he begged, the clearer it became that he still didn't understand why she left. Not even close. To make his family recognize her value, he hired another girl to pretend to be his girlfriend. That girl was really brave, Lily told me, smiling. She did everything I wanted to do, but never dared. Jason seemed to think he had sacrificed a lot to win her back. He acted tragic, dramatic, almost noble in his own imagination. But Lily felt nothing. If anything, she found it ridiculous. Where had he been before? When she was wronged, he told her to endure. When she was exhausted cooking and cleaning, he told her to endure. What was she, a ninja turtle? His family's cruelty hurt, of course, but his indifference made her colder. Stories love the wife-chasing crematorium, where a man hurts a woman, regrets it, and suffers beautifully until she forgives him. Real life is simpler. Some people belong in the crematorium and should stay there. I had inspired Lily because I made her realize she did not want to keep that breath of anger trapped in her chest forever. So when Jason's parents called, she pretended to be overjoyed. She let them think they had grabbed that same soft, obedient girl again. When she stepped back into the Blackwood house, everything was familiar. The air, the judgment, the fake sweetness, the old pain. But this time, she finally released the fire, and it felt good. Later, she read more of my notebook. She looked at me with those clear eyes and said, "How many unfair things did you go through?" I shrugged, because what else was I supposed to do? Life and death are nothing. If you don't accept it, fight. Instead of internalizing pain and grinding yourself into dust, go crazy and slap the world back. Lily laughed. Interesting. Afterward, I organized our story into the handbook and named it Style 101, Mutual Madness, Practical Applications, and Refusing to be Anyone's Doormat. Jason kept texting. Lily did not answer. I did not answer. Somewhere, the Blackwoods were probably still disinfecting pots, replacing toothbrushes, throwing away water guns, and whispering Lily's name like a prayer. Meanwhile, Lily and I sat in a hotel room surrounded by snacks, soda, messy blankets, and the peaceful knowledge that revenge does not always mean becoming elegant, successful, quiet, and untouchable. Sometimes revenge means becoming so creatively, hilariously unmanageable, that the people who mistreated you finally have to sit alone with the sound of their own stupidity. And me? I walked away with $50,000, a new best friend, several fresh entries in my combat manual, and the life-changing certainty that if you are crazy enough, people stop asking you to be reasonable and start asking you to leave. Honestly, that is freedom.